Welcome to the couch right here on ZTM Prime. We are the home of big opinions, deep dives, and football passion. And it's a full house in studio today as we get ready and get excited for what should be another fantastic football season. We are in February finally. At the end of this month, we'll get to witness the Castle Challenge Cup that will pit the reigning PSL champions Scotland FC against the three-time Chibuku Super Cup winners. That is Dynamo. So, Borara, Rapa Duze, and joining me to unpack our topic at hand, we're going to be taking a closer look at a team that surprised a lot of people last season, making their debut in the Castle Premier Soccer League, finishing runners-up. They were hailing out of Norton, Mwos FC. Our topic for today is Inside Mwos, the pride of Norton. And you could argue that pride goes beyond Norton. And joining me to unpack and deep dive into this topic, the gang is here. Veronica Guazevero, what's up? Happy New Year. I haven't seen you in 2026. You took an extended leave. I thought you'd come back with some goodies and, you know.
I remember the other season when you had to travel to Kwamtari. The Jam Boys.
Yeah.
You know, after all these movements,
So, Mamanda Kushani,
remember 18 category ne 3 or 4 chete vakaretain the rest kwakuchida kugadziriswa saka ndanjimbodzifambira nyaya dzacho aiwa zvakaita. The season is about to get underway.
2026, brand new year. I mean, less than a month now until the season starts. How excited are you for the Castle Premier Soccer League?
Yeah, absolutely excited. We are looking forward to a very good season, to a competitive season, given the way these teams have been staffing up in terms of playing personnel as well as the technical personnel. We've got Mtekeda Vandu Amwacho Wakato Staffka. So we are looking forward.
Pickett Minerals for Mwos. But Thaddeus, I've been following a lot of your articles across our different publications, from the Herald to the Sunday Mail to the Chronicle, H Metro. There's been such a lot of transfer activity. How are you keeping up with everything that's happening? Do you even recognize any of the 18 teams, right, based off what we saw last season?
Yeah, that issue of continuity maybe falls through right now, given the way these teams have backed up their playing stuff. But I think there's always one team since 2018 that always retains their playing staff. That is the students.
Consistent. Well, I'm sure the men sitting next to you is going to have something to say about that, because I think they've also been relatively consistent. Also, the last time we saw you, you were with the Pickett Minerals, and now a new job sitting at the top of a growing football empire coming out of Norton. That is Mwos FC, appointed technical director. First of all, congratulations on that appointment. Happy New Year. How's the new year started? Have you hit the ground running yet in Norton?
Yeah, thank you, Tich. Yeah, indeed, Happy New Year. 2026, yeah, quite a year. There's work at Norton. There's work at Mwos, especially getting in an institution where I think ever since the inception, they did fairly well. And even last year, their maiden season in the Premiership, that was quite a commendable performance to finish runners-up. So coming in that kind of an institution means you really have to pull up your socks and try and make sure you improve on what was also there.
Well, they were number 2, so improvement means one thing from where we're standing, but we will unpack that in detail. But let's get into our trending stories on this edition of The Couch. And we start in the transfer market, where Dynamo's midfielder Temptation Achunga has officially parted ways with the Harare Giants, bringing the curtain down on a memorable 2-year spell filled with silverware. He was part of that a team that won back-to-back Chibuku Super Cups during his 2 years there. And for the former JDR Stars midfielder who joined the club in January 2024, paying tribute to the coaches, teammates and backroom staff who shaped his development during his 2-year stay at the club, whilst reserving a special praise for the Dynamos fans who stood by him through the highs and lows. And the former Douglas Warriors and Gunners midfielder is heavily linked with a team that has been also on a massive rebuild, that is Chicken in, or now under the tutelage of Tondorai and Raya. And it looks like Temptation, Veronica, is on his way out of Dynamos. I mean, just 2 years at the club, but just based on the personnel that they had last season, it's fair to argue he was one of the senior players at the club, even despite their troubles. Yeah,
I think especially after the departure of Emmanuel Jalai, Vusa Ngwenya, Isaka Mohammed, you really didn't want Dynamos to continue losing more players, especially in this manner. If it was a clean move, I would have applauded him. But looking at the issues that surround his exit.
What are the issues? Because, I mean, we've heard and we've seen reports about Dynamos having a new executive, supposedly having a 2.5 million sponsorship coming from Sakunda. So what are the issues that have forced him to pen this emotional letter and trade Rufaro for Luveve?
I think the issues that were raised upon him being told that he must leave the club were issues to do with the protest that they did last season.
So he was kicked out?
He was kicked out. And the allegations were that he was one of the leading members in the issue of the industrial action. So obviously for a club of that magnitude, you know very well that these players are family men. They need the money because this is where they work. Obviously for them to go on industrial action, it's an extreme move that they take because you are not honoring your contractual obligations, which is to pay them. So now for the club to punish a player based on the action that they took because you did not honor your part of the agreement, I felt it was a bit unfair. And then secondly, just like you said, he was one of the players who played a pivotal role in Dynamo's survival last season, despite not really getting a lot of game time. But he's one player whom you knew that if he steps on the pitch, he's going to deliver. But even in terms of free kicks, he was one of the go-to guys.
But to be fair, as much as we might say he's been kicked out, in a 2-year contract, it ended, it wasn't renewed. We can call it, we can assume and insinuate retribution to say, you know what, it wasn't renewed because of the industrial strike. But Thaddeus, I'll ask you this. There's a new executive. What motivation do they have to punish somebody when they were not there last season? I mean, what are you making? What is your reading of this situation? Do you agree with Vero that Temptation could be a victim of retribution? And if so, why? Especially if we're saying that there's a new chairman in town, there's a new executive. Why would they punish him for things that they're saying they didn't agree with last season and that they would be hoping to fix?
Yeah, I will tell you this, Tish. 2 weeks ago, I was at Dynamo's training session. I saw Temptation Shunga having a meeting with the executive, some of the members of the executive, as well as the coach. So the truth is the coach wanted the player, but then the executive was fed with the information, the same information that Veronica is telling you. And then at the end of the day, a decision had to be made and they had to sacrifice Temptation. Otherwise, Temptation was supposed to be a Dynamos. Because the coach wanted
went
him
against the coach's wishes. The coach wanted to keep him.
You know, Dynamos is a volatile club. You
can say that again.
Yeah, it's a volatile club, and here and there, they also work based on gossip. So I would like to believe that this gossiping eventually led to his sacking, but otherwise, Temula was going to add value for Genesis Mangombe. In the first place, it is also Genesis Mangombe who brought him from JDR Stars. You look at a player like Temptation being chucked up in that manner, it's just unfortunate.
All right, so I mean, you can interact with us on our various social media platforms. Help us answer this question. who is the biggest loser in this messy divorce between Dynamos and Temptation Chunga? Is it Chunga who misses out on playing for the three-time Chibuku Super Cup champions and a potential stint on the continent? Or is it Dynamos who lose one of the players who was pivotal to their success? So you can interact with us on our various social media platforms. Let's talk about another team. Well, we're still trying to figure out what's happening with this team. Well, the name hasn't changed, that's for sure. Hunters FC, promoted from Marondera last season. But, you know, there's been a lot of confusion in terms of how they're going to be constituted come the 2026 Casolaga Premier Soccer League. But they've assured the league that their ownership structures comply with league regulations following concerns over possible dual ownership involving Scotland owner Pedzai Scott Sakopanya, the club dismissing speculation that Ngombe Aora will take over its franchise, noting that the move was backed by PSL rules. So, I mean, this has been a fluid and ever-evolving story, Thaddeus. Firstly, there was that official bid that we heard from Harare City, and I think last week, towards the end of last week, Harare City giving up and saying, you know what, this is too confusing and messy for us. We'll keep our $600,000. And then there were reports that Ngome Aora, through a different vehicle, Marondera or FC Holdings or something, was going to then take over. But FC Hunters are saying, no, Ngome Aora has got nothing to do with us. So there's no conflict here. I mean, I know you do some investigative pieces, but unpack this for us.
Okay, that is the beauty of the game, or the ugliness of this game, because football has got that tendency of being beautiful as well as being ugly at the same time. So banapa tunenge tu pakutambisana bora, sometimes iri nemweya, sometimes iri sina.
It's like FC Hunters then.
Okay, from the information that is on the ground, the FC Hunters in the Emirates, FC Hunters.
So I said that franchise is not Tengeswa.
No, I said Tengeswa. Kana Tengeswa maybe ninge Tengeswa zechitsotsi, but then we are not away, so we just have to work with what we know. Both Ngombe Aora actually will be playing in the Northern Region Soccer League, and they are training separately with their coach, that is Nesbet Yabo Saruchera. So
it's got nothing to do with Ngombe Aora.
As things look
on the surface. Well,
yeah.
Let's just get FC Hunters on their part. They say they remain a legally independent entity with all shareholdings changes duly registered and control vested in FC Hunters Marondera Private Limited. So that's the company that is now operating under a three-pillar governance structure to make its Casolaga Premier Soccer League debut in the 2020 season. And as part of this restructuring, you talked about the owner, tiny three pillars now. As part of the restructuring, it is reported that Cuthbert Chitima has been appointed chairman after acquiring a 40% stake in the club, and Terence Tinashe Malonga comes in as the chief executive officer. I know you love you have missed deep dives. I've seen your investigative pieces. Sometimes I don't go to netball, but you want to say
Yeah, I think just like Teddy said, Kuti, this is one story. Sometimes sometimes pasina. But from my perspective, especially looking back to the past 2-3 seasons, I would also want to shift my eyes to PSL itself as custodians of the game, because I'm beginning to feel that some of these clubs, they transition from D1 to the Elite League, but without full knowledge of how intense the business becomes when they come into the Elite League.
But that's that's not the responsibility of the PSO. Because the PSO, all it can do is after promotion, it can hold an induction ceremony. They can't go to Division 1 and say, guys, this is how you prepare
that's
for...
That's where my issue now,
yeah.
the issue of induction.
Yeah.
Because I think vamwe vacho vanenge vaine half-baked information. They think kuti business in the PSO rakafanana neriri kuitika ku D1, and yet it's totally different.
So whose responsibility is that now?
I think PSO needs to do more in terms of my inductions, so that these guys come with the full knowledge what are we getting into, so that even when they make the business decisions, they know what decisions they should make and at what point. Because look, last season takazoita Kwekwe United, but the moment yavakazofunga kuda kusiya club, like I'm talking about Makekera, it was already late. If you had gotten earlier induction, you would have known kuti nemari yandakabata nemamiriro akaita zvinhu zvangu, even before the start of the season, you could have perhaps relinquished some of those shares and zvaisazombosvika pazvakasvika. So I think these are some of the induction lessons that my clubs, the 4 clubs promote from D1, if they can do those inductions, even ku D1 kwacho, the executive ku D1, you teach those clubs kuti, right, we are starting the 2026 season. I know one of these clubs, one of you guys are going to get promoted for next season, but when the promotion comes, this is what's on the table. And then back to PSO, before they do because my inductions are PSO, it's maybe a week or so before the start of the season, or 2 weeks before the start of the season, which I feel is already late. If they do that just after promotion, so that my clubs are going to promote, they know that even throughout their preparation, vari kutofana kutotsvaga ma-business partners, because they know kuti if we look at Hunters, it's owned by a farmer. How sustainable is it for a farmer kutora ma-proceeds from the farming business kuda fulfill my financial obligations on PSO?
But anyway, I think at the heart of this, I think we can all agree, is issues to do with club licensing. Because even if you looked at how the Premier Soccer League in particular dealt with this, they referred it to the football governing body, ZIFA, for guidance, because this was a club licensing issue. So I think maybe now, as much as you highlighted the PSO, I think ZIFA is also custodians of those regions, whether it's Northern region, Southern region, Central region, Eastern region, have to take a greater responsibility in making sure that those clubs are capacitated and understand. Club licensing shouldn't be something that we have to engage and interact with Tashukaku Premier Soccer League. I know, yes, farmer and whatever, but if we're serious about our football, there have been conversations about having a combined Division 1 league. Maybe that's what ZIFA needs to look at, to say, you know what, how do we make sure that the teams that get promoted are capacitated from Division 1 level? If it means Division 2, let it be. No offense to farmers. Farmers
club licensing. Kunana EPL, they do my background checks before the start of the season. How much funds do you have in your coffers? The source of funds, so I think it's also that loophole is going to lead us into a situation in which 2 or 3 financially well individuals who control the entire league, because ndo vanenge vaine mafunds acho. And as long as we don't do those background checks, all right, imimi Hunters matima akuya PSO, but how much do you have in your coffers? How much is it? How long is it going to last you in the PSO? My background checks, which means we are falling short on that. Whoever is going to have money, achangouya oti nini ndakupinda paHunters, because imimi are forced makuda mari, you are going to accept them. So we shall not, some years down the line, we are going to have 2 or 3 individuals controlling the entire league, vanenge vaine stake kuma clubs ese.
Yeah, it's a messy one that I think we need a different, like a whole couch episode to unpack and dive into this one. Let's look abroad, where Motherwell head coach Jans Asko says he's delighted by the club's decision to keep the Warriors forward. Tawanda Maswanise has been enjoying a purple patch in the Scottish Premiership, scored a brace against Livingston to take his tally in the league to 13 goals, 18 in all competitions, and that saw him attract interest from the big 2 in Scotland. Blackburn Rovers were rumoured to be trying to swoop in on deadline day, Anderlecht in Belgium. But let's hear from the Motherwell coach.
It's not me who needed backing. It's a club decision. that we want to see if we can push as far and build on the momentum we have built and build on the squad that we have and the quality we have in the building, and we have a good open dialogue with the players on and make plans with them and for them, how to make sure that they develop as here while they're here, and then find the right moment for them to leave. And the discussion have never been that the plan was for him to leave now. Then obviously he has attracted an extreme amount of interest from all over the world, I would say, and also from the UK, and a little bit earlier than we expected, and then maybe he expected, but and there has been offers as well. But they have not been at an amount that has been nowhere near the valuation that we put on him. So it has been very easy not to just to say, well, no, now is not the time, and not to change the plans that we have made.
Basically, they didn't get the money that they wanted. That's the implication. But he also says that Maswanise himself is happy to stay at Motherwell.
He's really happy. I've had contact with him throughout the window. He's looked happier than ever, and today he was a big smile and really excited to just kick on. I think maybe a little bit relieved that he doesn't have to speculate about that anymore, because he's really happy to be here, and he knows that the biggest chance for him to be top scorer in the league, which is a second ambition of his. First one is to do as well as possible with the team, and then obviously the second big ambition for him, and it should be as a goal scorer and as a forward, it is to score as many goals as possible, because it will help us and it will help him move on, and he knows that the best chance he gets for that is to be here and continue where he started, because we are producing a lot of chances for our forward players, and especially for him, and some of them he's producing on his own, because he plays in a very good team. So he's happy, we're happy, and it's been quite uncomplicated actually.
Well, there was a lot of interest. I can tell you, a lot of Zimbabweans, I think, had so much eyes on the transfer deadline. But in the end, no movement for Maswanise. I think it was only Marvelous Nakamba who made the switch from Luton Town, going to Sheffield Wednesday after mutually agreeing to terminate his contract there. And then we saw Mnashe Garanganga leaving Denmark, FC Copenhagen, the Danish champions. He's now playing in the same league as Maswanise at Hibernian. But I'll bring you in here, and just looking at Maswanise, a lot of Zimbabweans, and I'm sure you as well, we're following this story. I think, on our back pages, it almost felt like we're now reporting exclusively on Maswanise. Such was the interest. Good or bad move for him to stay? Are you happy with him staying at Motherwell until the end of the season? Would you have wanted him to move, especially when you look at the caliber of clubs that were looking at him? Reported interest from Celtic and Rangers. And interesting, Jans Asko is one of the leading candidates to go to Celtic at the end of the season. So maybe he's keeping Maswanise for himself for next season. I don't know, but Wilson, maybe your view on this whole transfer saga and how it's concluded.
Yeah, teacher, I think you preempted what I wanted to say, that the coach knows he might be moving, and he's trying to keep the
protect
player.
his assets.
Yes. These the winter movements, the movement in the winter, they usually, most of the time, you're not well prepared. Even where you're going, you are a quick fix, and sometimes it backfires. I think for him to see the season through is going to be good for him. He can consolidate in terms of his goal tally and even his performances. And when he seeks a move next, then he's in a better position, and even his valuation maybe would have increased. And even the clubs that are going to be interested in him will be of a different type.
Right, Veronica, just following this saga, at one point reports claim that Motherwell themselves, I think in US dollar terms, had put at least about 5.4 million as a price tag on him. Blackburn Rovers, who are playing in the championship, reportedly came in with a bid, I think around the $3 million mark. And then you're hearing Jans Asko speak and say, you know what, we didn't get the money that we wanted for him? Do you think it was about the money, or it was about them holding on to the asset?
Yeah, I think they had to play it diplomatic, just put a higher price tag, knowing that
It's 5.4 million high, is it?
based on what the other offers that then did come, I think it was a way of just trying to hold on to their player. They knew that this figure is not going to come. So I would say it was a high tag.
What does, obviously, as Zimbabweans, especially, and even Africans, I think we can say that, based on, the validation he got from CAF, being named amongst the most promising talents. But as Zimbabweans, especially that one game against South Africa, I think his value in our eyes has skyrocketed. So I'll tell you, I mean, if I remove my journalist hat, I was disappointed when I saw 5.4 million. They're 5.4, but it's, the offers were not coming from outside of maybe the what seemed like genuine interest from Scotland's big two, who are familiar with him, having watched him. Anderlecht, maybe Blackburn Rovers struggling in the championship. What does this say about how we see Maswani and the reality of maybe where he is right now, as exciting as he might be as a player?
Yeah, maybe as Zimbabweans, we should also allow ourselves to see our warrior growing into a player that we all want to see. Because standard yake yanayo izvo achiri mfana, he's still growing up, achiri kuwana ma-basics ese, asati anyatsoita kusvika, because dai kuri kuti papaine ma-interest chaiwo ari genuine, Maswani was going to be transferred. Because kana tichiti isusu anga akaiswa a price tag 5.4 million, then it means kuti ndopa achitori papo. Dai kuri kuti any team iri muchampionship kuEngland kwakwe inotenga on ma6 million 7 million yakwanisa kungomutenga. So ezvinezvi ngatimbofari paari papo, and then we allow him to grow, ozosvika palevel anofanira kunyatsa kusvika. Because even naCeltic vanotamba nawo against Rangers, vanotamba nayo against, havanokwanisa kumutora, but mari iyoyo vanenge vainayo kana kutodarika. So pari zvinezvi ngatimbofari nepaari pacho papapo, and then tomusiya oita se okura achasvika zvake.
We're rooting for him to get the golden boot.
And the coach said, we didn't expect this early. So I think they know kuti tukufana kumbompaka liwe impicha nambonyatsoibva, because most of the time our players, they get into scoring mode, ozombosvika paanomboita tuma flashes tokumboti out, because Satani that consistent. So I think they want to see him. They want him to see the season through, so that they see kuti anyatsowa consistent here apinda mugroove, so that the value of Yazichato skyrocket kubva ipapo futi.
Yeah, I just want him to win the golden boot. In Scotland has been doing so well, and we're proud of our warrior. That's it for our training stories. We'll take a short break. We'll come back, and then we'll take a deep dive into Mwos FC ahead of the 2026 Kasolaga Premier Soccer League season. They are the pride of Norton, and their new technical director, Wilson Mutekere, is here, and hopefully he'll help us get some insights into what the strategy is for Mwos going into this season.
They call me Racer X, or in this case, Racer J. All right.
Put your seatbelt on.
Catch exclusive interviews every weekday for candid, exciting, and thought-provoking conversations with your host, Erika Ndoro.
We talk about arts, we can talk about sports, we can even talk about politics, and sometimes we venture into a nice guitaristic play.
The one story where you can't get out of your head. Karo mwana mnimambama mu studio. Wakatarisa munhu so Erica like where you are sitting. Ndozongokona bata face so pasina munhu.
Wakasiya music yako yo Afro chakuti ndo music manje yemuZimbabwe.
And I'm sure they're still saying the same thing now.
Yeah, so
Shona kana kuti chindevere kana mumwe mutaure muno muZimbabwe ndiwe iwewe ndiwo rupawo rwako ndicho chidadiso chako.
Catch me, Erica Ndoro, right here on ZTN Prime every single Monday at 7 p.m. whilst we get exclusive.
All right, you are watching The Couch here on ZTN Prime. Remember, you can get social with us on our different social media platforms at ZTN Prime across Instagram, X, YouTube, and TikTok. On Facebook, it's simply at Zimpapers Television Network. And our topic today, inside Mwos FC, the pride of Norton. Our special guest is the incoming Mwos FC technical director, Wilson Tekede, appointed in early December last year, marking a new era at the club, which on paper looks to have a long-term vision for sustainable growth and elite performance. So, I mean, Wilson, obviously, Bikita, that ended, you got the call from Mwos. What was the conversation like? What did they want from you in terms of when they said, you know, we want you to come in and be the technical director? What was the vision that was shared with you in terms of what they want you to help them do in Norton?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, yes, Bigita history, and I think right around September last year, Mwos had already put in place their plan for the new year and the new season. And basically, they were looking at the development structures of the club. When you look at how Mwos do their business, I think they're a club that is trying to do a football business in a very, very, I think, straightforward way, in a professional manner. And basically, my coming in is on looking at structures, strategic plans in terms of the club, because the coaches, when you look at the technical and you're talking about the coaches are merely coaches focus on the next game. And they wanted somebody who was going to be strategic in terms of the vision. So they wanted somebody who would project probably the club in the next 5 years. What structure should we put in place? Where are we and where do we want to go? And then how do we then go that journey? I think basically that's my role at Mwos.
You've experienced, obviously, you've done this role as well at a national level with ZIFA. In terms of development, and I'm sure my colleagues can agree with me, it seems like such a buzzword. Everybody knows that we need to have development, whether it's at a club level, at national level, but, you know, the practicality of it all is different. You know, it sounds fancy, you know, it sounds like something I would say in a job interview to say, you know, and I can help with development, but what does it look like because when we look at it from the outside, Mwos is still a club in development, you know, even at first team level. Before we start thinking about their women's team, their junior structures and everything, you know, they're a relatively young team, played in the top flight last season, however successful they were. What does development look like for Mwos based on the vision that was shared with you?
Yeah, when you like you said, that development is a word that has been used, I think, could we say loosely or
casually
used? Yeah, because when you look at the way we do football, not only football, but the way we do sport, for us, I think for a long time we have been in a recreational mode in terms of sport. I think maybe when we inherited sport, it coming from probably in Europe where it was advanced. When it came down to Africa, it was given to us as a pastime thing, as a hobby. And that did not change much. Even if after being the first country that had a player in the EPL, our legendary captain Peter Jov, the first African player to play in the EPL. We did not catch it in terms of having a business approach to football. So the same, this is why now development can be spoken about casually like that. So when you look at how the club wants to do things, it's really getting right at the bottom. In terms of one, scouting. What are you doing? I think you may be aware, Mwos is a community-oriented club. So network, it's actually Mwos and Norton are just but one thing. So when you look at that, there are already programs that were in place in terms of them funding a league of primary school kids. There's a league that's running there, which is being brilliantly managed by Mwos. And in that...
Does that fall under your purview now as technical director?
Yes, yes. My purview is right from grassroots to under-19 development. That's my areas of focus, including the Queens. So that's where my focus is all about. And the idea is having as many grassroots festivals for talent identification first. And after talent identification, then what? We need to nurture that talent. Who is going to nurture the talent? It has to be the coach, the coaches, and how qualified are the coaches, and what are the structures that we have to make sure we are going to do the right process, and what's the infrastructure that is there as well. So this is basically my purview, and I think that's where we are wanting to go as Mwos FC.
Veronica, I think we can agree as members of the Fourth Estate, usually when we hear about technical directors, majority of the times it's ceremonial, or it's just a position that's created in order to maybe move a head coach away from his position so that you can keep it within the structures. But in terms of actual work done, we have not seen a club that has had a technical director, and we've actually seen the output of that. How convinced are you, or what are some of the pitfalls that you think maybe Wilson might face in trying to create that, as in move away from it just being a ceremonial title? It sounds fancy, technical director, TD, but we've hardly seen the output of that from a club level. Do you think Mwos and Wilson in particular, they can be able to get it right?
Yeah, I think I would always want to look at it from a positive side. Because when you look back into last season when they made their debut in the PSL, I think Mwos were one of those clubs that exhibited professionalism. For certain, this is the team manager, and he sticks to his roles as the team manager. When you are looking for the security guys, they are going to direct you to the head of security, and you knew very well that Divine was going to give you really under jurisdiction yake. When you are looking for things to do with the media, they would direct you to the media guy. So I think in that setup, I'm looking at the technical director coming into a setup that is already running on a professional level. So I don't really see him having a lot of challenges because he's in a setup that is already professional. It's actually him who is supposed to adjust and uphold that professionalism yavawana irimo in that club. And then maybe the other thing is he's coming into a club that has got a very strong relationship with their community. So I think for him to be able to withstand the atmosphere at Mwos, he also needs to fit into that environment. He needs to convince the Norton community that he is there as a professional, he's there for development. Because when you look even like their women's team, I remember last season when the season started, they hastily assembled a women's side because they wanted to conform to the CAF regulations. So that team was assembled, but they had to go and scrape around for players. But during the mid-season break, they went out scouting. They held trials in Norton, and they said we only need girls from Norton because this is a Norton team, and we are doing it for the community. So in as much as we are assembled something at the start of the season just so that they can take us through to mid-season, but now we are giving back to the community, and they held those trials specific for young girls in Norton.
Tedis, your expectations, obviously, because I'm a skeptic. When I hear technical director, I'm like, it's just out of a money by bench sometimes. But what are your expectations given what Wilson has shared in terms of the vision that the club has and what they're trying to do, what are your expectations?
Okay, not that I'm sitting closer to him, but Awusam Mtekede is someone that I highly regard. He has worked as a technical director at the highest level, that is for ZIFA, implementing a lot of programs, including the NAF and NASH tournaments that were being sponsored by Coca-Cola, and Mangoma players actually they are playing right now in the league. So munoguti is when it comes to implementation, like what Vero said, it's now up to him to fully implement what is expected of him.
Part of our conversation, Wilson, has sort of segued into that ceremonial role, and I know you wear the TD badge with pride, but now when you were describing your portfolio and what you're supposed to do, you highlighted a lot the grassroots development from the league that Mwos is running all the way up to the under-19s, the women's team. But, what is your relationship, or what is going to be your relationship with the first team, and in particular your working relationship with Lloyd Mutasha, who has been a long-time coach of this team?
Thank you very much. I think it's like you said, there is this mystic feeling about technical directors in clubs. I think it's one thing that we need to really put up in the open, maybe for information's sake, and so that a lot of people
that's why you're here.
can get to realize the role of a technical director. Technical director is not a title, but it is a function. That's one thing that we must know. And this function is clearly defined under the FIFA technical leadership and development. When you talk about a technical director, it's not like I take my cousin because there's a position there and I put him there. But it is actually a module now when under FIFA which somebody has to go through. It's a diploma that will take you about 13 years, thoroughly going through the training programs in terms of knowing my roles as technical director. I need a basare. What is it that they serve? When they give that technical direction to an institution, what is it that they should be doing? So the problem that we have seen in Zimbabwe, because the roles are not very clear, and people in someone who is probably thrust in that position doesn't also understand with Basaragendere. So this is why then in clubs there are challenges where a technical director and the head coach, maybe they are already not understanding their roles, and the technical director maybe is crossing overstepping, and the coach is not sure. There's a lot of mistrust. But as far as I am concerned and as Lloyd is concerned, we are two people that have known each other for quite some time. People might not know. And for me to be at Mwos, it's actually probably also the recommendation of Lloyd Mtasa. So as far as relationships and working relationships is concerned, we are quite cordial, no challenges. But getting back to the roles of a technical director, it's quite a lot of work. It's a lot of work in terms of like creating pathways for development. That must be clear in terms of where are we getting the talent, how are we training the talent, and where do we want the talent to go. Making sure the structures are in place, because there's a lot of work when it comes to development. It's not just waking up and we have a team. Like right now, you see at Mwos, the first call was to put in place a structure in terms of the whole club. We had right from the first team up to the Queens. There is each and every technical setup for each and every team now in place. And everyone is very clear on their roles. Right from the very capable security, we have groundsmen, we have everything now is there in place. And this is the role of the technical director, is to make sure in between the executive and the technical and people that are going to be operating under technical, I have to be probably be the link and the cord in terms of what we want to achieve as a club.
Right, and I think development is something that we've been talking about a lot. But when it comes to football at a macro level here in Zimbabwe, there's a lot of young players. I mean, we've got a lot of junior tournaments, and I think now we saw last week a grassroots league being launched. But that pathway from the under-19s, the under-17s, under-14s to the first team is not always clear. Mm-hmm. I think right now, we're talking about, nearly every single club has sort of overhauled their squad, and you hardly hear about an announcement from a Mwos or Scotland or Dynamos Highlanders that we've promoted 5 players from our under-19 to the first team. It's usually we've gotten player X, Y, Z from another club. As a technical director in this setup at Mwos, what is going to be your role in terms of making sure that there is that link between players? Because you guys could spend years developing players and then, you know, they never get to the first team. Other clubs might benefit. How are you going to be working with Lloyd or the rest of the club structures to make sure that there is a direct pathway from somebody who starts maybe, you know, at St. Eric's High School in Norton, for example, gets to play for the age group structures at Mwos or in those leagues that you're talking about, and can end up at Mwos as an Nortonian. What's the plan for that?
Yes, like you're saying, the Nortonians, in terms of the kids that are coming through from primary school, the league that I spoke about, obviously they are going to filter in through under-13s and under-15s, and we have a robust program that is in place. And then we have under-17s that, if you may be aware, who are playing in the second division. And this is a team that's going to be there specifically for development. And from the under-17s, they will move into the under-19s. If you check the whole idea and actually the mandate that I was given, in 3 years' time, not in terms of Mwos FC, we are not looking towards purchasing acquiring more than 5 players from elsewhere. And the mandate is TD, we need to produce players. And we have put in place frameworks in terms of making sure we are scouting locally, Norton first, and then, yes, the exceptional players from outside, we're going to also have them in our structures. But I think it's a very, very comprehensive program that we've put in place. And like I'm saying, and like you also registered, that people have just been talking about development and nothing is happening. I think you give us even the end of this year, and you come and see structures and football teams that are playing under our juniors, I think we will speak of something.
30 minutes.
According to what he's saying, if they stick strictly to my age groups, I think in three years' time, they will be having one of the strongest teams even in the PSO. Because why in Rukudaro? Because ukatasa, especially in Division 1, most of the teams in Division 1, so if you stick to your age group, your D1 team is largely consisted of maybe 17 to 19s. They will be playing Nivan Wakuru, so they develop fast in such a way by the time you have a PSO. So maybe the issue again making sure that your Division 1 team doesn't get relegated. They survive relegation, but the major thing is the exposure.
Thank you very much, Veronica. We have, I think I'm selling some of our ideas here.
No. We're trying to understand what a TD does. You guys are setting an example. Let's put it that way. You're not selling ideas. You're setting an example.
We have put, like Veronica is saying, we've put in place age caps, and we are very thorough about. You know what's happening in terms of ages and this and that. We have gone through issues, but we are trying to be as strict as we can in terms of chasing that. Are we training? Are we developing the right aged player? And the same at under 19, because our first division team is strictly under 19, maybe with 1 or 2 for the spine of the team, but it's going to be strictly under 19. There is no push for wanting to get that championship in Northern Region, but is to afford these kids an opportunity to develop in a very competitive manner. The same with under 17s in second division. So we are very, very clear on what we want to push for, and I think the role of a technical director. Let me get the back again. There are times when you're a technical director and you have no support, and the support is not there. It's difficult to achieve anything. But when an institution where you have the support, and every day you are given an opportunity to then put in your ideas, and then you sit down with an executive and you're sharing those ideas, and we agree that this is the direction that you're going, then you feel you're doing something. There is a time that you are ceremonial. For real, you are right, Teach, to say you're ceremonial. And you have no say. And you have probably a voice coming from that other province and that other province, and you don't have a technical say in anything. It does not come out.
All right, we'll be back shortly, and we'll be winding down the show and maybe just look at the technological side of football, data analysis, and how we can incorporate that from our junior structures right all the way up to the first team. It is The Couch right here on ZTM Prime.
Didn't graduate. I guess I blew it.
You couldn't advise him anything. He would just look at you and say, so who do you think you are?
We were just like really spoiled.
And then they just give me the receipt and I'd pay.
That guy walks in one day and then he says that he wants to make a movie.
He was blowing the money.
There was just like this habit that he had where as soon as he got money, it was gone.
I just didn't have the skills or the experience.
This money, I could see it disappear so fast.
We're continuing with The Couch, and our special guest today is our Mwos Technical Director, Wilson Tegede, who's been regaling us and informing us in terms of the roles of TD. Because I said, I'm going to go to club, that TD, but
team yakarelegate kwakabva yatengwa maplayers yese last season.
But something
not even.
We have what
it's not because
you're good to investigate.
Thank you, Veronica, for that one. Teach. Yeah, it's one of those things. You are purported to have been relegated.
But you were relegated, but maybe some things were beyond your control. But just maybe unfortunately we're running out of time. But just as we sort of like wind down, we were talking off air before we came back. We're talking about philosophy. Is that something that you've had a conversation with Lloyd Mutasa about in terms of the direction? Because obviously the first team is an animal that is in existence and might have a philosophy of its own. And there you are. With the Queens, the under-17s, under-19s. Are you guys aligned in terms of the philosophy? How much input does Lloyd Mutasa as the first team coach have in terms of the philosophy that you're going to be drilling down to the teams all the way down to under-13 and vice versa?
Yeah, sure. First and foremost, the ownership, the club president, in his head, the kind of a structure that he wanted to see, the kind of football that he wants to see played. And when he went in for Lloyd, in terms of what he wanted, it was matching. And when I went through a very rigorous interview session, and he was also checking on what is it that I also believed in terms of football. So when the three of us shared the kind of football that we would want, and including Lloyd also, who was already playing that kind of a fluid game, a very technical game, I think then we said to then push to then try and do what the Presidium wants in terms of how they want to see their club play. And now that when that was agreed, it's then cascading downwards. The way the first team plays, Lloyd says we should be playing this way according to the philosophy. It's the same way that we're sharing down with even the Division 1, with the D1 team, into our under-17s, and even our girls as well. Basically, Mwos FC is about producing technical players, sound players on the field of play, players with tools that they can use on the field of play. We are not going to send out people on the field without tools.
Did you see that last season, what he's saying? That technical players, that philosophy, did you see it last season?
Of course, I saw that in abundance, and credit goes to Lloyd Mutasa. I think besides Cape United and Erendaus, I think, yeah, I think Mwos ndo imwe team yaitamba bora rangeri fluid, and of course FC Platinum. Yeah.
I'll still talk to my nigga. Just as we round up, I've been hearing what you've heard from the TD and the shared vision with Mwos. You know, how successful do you think they can be with their ideas, especially knowing how our football environment works in this country? Because you know, it's all well and good to have a plan, and I think we had a graphic before on the screen of you know, all the different people, the different roles and whatever, but how practical is it for him and Lloyd and the Presidium and everyone in Norton to be able to achieve what they want to have a team primarily made up of Nortonians, players coming from under 19s into the senior team? How practical is it in our setup?
Yeah, I think when it all starts from a vision, and in fact a shared vision within the structure, I think it's achievable. Because look here, it's actually the club president who's the major sponsor for the club, who came with his vision. He went out headhunting the people whose play philosophy dovetails his own vision. So when they shared vision like that, I think, and resources available, I don't see anything stopping them. Because at the end of the day, if you see most of our teams do not fail up, they don't come up with a structure it is sustainable. So you can't be buying players season in, season out. So I know financially it's going to be taxing maybe in the first 2 seasons or the first 3 seasons, but after that it's going to be a matter of graduating players from the junior structures upwards.
But you know what, from a purely technical perspective and from a structural perspective, as somebody who wants to see things done right, I hope things work out for you guys. In job done in
what are not these man
for joining us and for your wonderful insights. We'll be following your journey, and I'm sure that these guys will be interacting with you and the rest of the Mwos fraternity and the rest of the football fraternity, and seeing that it was Queens watch it chef from the rant under 19
yekushavane hanzi yaitamba fluid tasemona kuti junior development yavo yakasimba sei, and most of the time they promote from my juniors.
The last word was supposed to be Manika. Anyway,
thank you.
Anyway, that's a wrap of the culture for this week. Enjoy the rest of the video.